In this video, we're going to learn to name alkenes. So IUPAC nomenclature of alkenes. IUPAC is just an acronym for International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. Don't really need to know that acronym. It's just the governing body that makes these decisions about how to name stuff. Nomenclature is just a fancy, word for naming. So this is just fancy for naming molecules. So we're going to learn how to name the alkenes. So the first one we've got here is a zigzag structure. And this zigzag structure has, a double line followed by 1, 2, 3, 4 single lines. So remember that every point is actually a carbon. So in this double line, the first point is a carbon, so there's 1. And then the second point of the double line is the second carbon. So we've got 1, 2 carbons. And then when these, next 4 lines start, we've got, on this, the first of the single lines, there'll be your third carbon. And then at the end of the second will be your fourth. And at the end of the third line will be your 5th carbon. And then at the end of the 4th line will be your 6th carbon. So, it kind of looks like 2 V's or even a W, a W all connected, then with 1 more line sagging down off that W. So think of drawing a W with a zag. That's kind of what we've got going on here, right? And what we need to look for is the total number of carbons we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons. And then we have that double line at the beginning. So we're going to say hex for 6. Hex was our prefix for 6. We're going to say ene now because there's a double bond. And then we're going to have to tell the world where the double bond starts. And this starts on the very first carbon. So this will actually be 1 hexene. Now, in the next molecule, we have a similar zigzag. And again, we're going to count the points. So there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. The second line is doubled up. There's 5 lines. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons. Now, this is hexene again because it's 6 carbons. It's hex and it ends in ene. But the difference here is that the double bond starts on the second carbon and goes to the third carbon. So if we were to number these carbons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, now our double bond starts at carbon 2, and this will be 2 hexene. And we always want to give that double bond the lower number. If we started from the opposite direction, if we started from the 6 carbon and numbered in the opposite direction, the double bond would be at 1, 2, 3, 4. We wouldn't want to call this 4 hexene. So 4 hexene would be numbering from the wrong end first. Okay, now let's look at this last example. Here's where it gets a little more complicated because our carbons aren't all in a row. So here we have CH2 double bonded to CH, single bonded to CH, and that CH has 2 different CH3s coming off of it. So it has a group off the main chain. So let's take a look at the rules for how to get started on a problem like this. So how to name an alkene using the IUPAC system. First, we want to find the longest chain that contains both carbon atoms of the double bond. It's really important that you bridge over both carbons of the double bond. You can't just hit on one of them, for example. Sometimes that does result in a chain that's shorter than you might have imagined. So sometimes you can find a longer chain in the molecule, but the one that bridges over both carbons of the double bond is shorter than the longest possible one in the whole molecule. So that's important to note. So it's not always the longest total chain anymore. It's the longest chain that bridges over both carbons of the double bond. So in this example, if we go left to right, we have our CH2 double bonded to our CH, that's 2 carbons, single bonded to a CH, that's 3 carbons, single bonded to a CH3, that's 4 carbons. So if we go across the molecule, we've got 4 carbons. So our prefix for 4 was bute. We know there's a double bond between that first and second carbon. So this is butene. Now, we want to, so there's 4 carbons in the longest chain. So instead of calling it butane like we would have before, we're going to call it butene for that double bond. Then our second rule is number the carbon chain from the end that gives the CC double bond the lower number. So we're going to start numbering from what we've got on the left, or the CH2, because then it's immediately double bonded to CH, single bonded to CH, single bonded to CH3. So we want to start from the left and call that first carbon 1, and then our double bond starts at carbon 1. So we're going to call this 1-butene. But then we have this group coming off of the third carbon, another CH3. So numbering the chain from left to right puts the double bond at carbon 1, not carbon 3. It'd be carbon 3 in the other direction. So the alkene rather, is named using the first number assigned to the double bond, making it 1-butene. So, the double bond goes from carbon 1 to carbon 2, but we call it 1-butene. We always just note the carbon where the double bond is starting, or triple bond if we were to name those next. And then number and name the substituents and write the name. So what's a substituent? Substituent is just code for group. And these groups, they end in YL. So we're going to give them a name ending in YL. For example, we've got our CH2 double bonded to our CH, single bonded to our CH, then bonded to our CH3. But that second to last C, that CH, has a CH3 coming off of it. So since that it's just a CH3, it's a 1 carbon group, it would be called meth for 1 carbon, and YL I kind of think of as for group. So we're going to number and name those substituents and write the name. So that 1 carbon group is called a methyl group. And then we have to let the world know where the methyl was located, and it's located on the third carbon. So 3-methyl 1-butene would be the full name of this chain with the branches coming off of it. So what do we do when we name alkenes? We make sure that we find the longest carbon chain that bridges over both carbons of the double bond. So it's not always the longest overall chain in the whole molecule. We do number to make sure that the double bond gets priority and gets the lower number. So here we saw our group, our methyl, got a high number, 3. It's because our double bond took priority. And then after that, after we've numbered to give our double bond priority, we can then name and number our substituents as well. So that covers the basics of naming with IUPAC for alkenes.